start stream. I think I am streaming now. Let me double check. Yep, we're just streaming. Okay, we're going to talk about data types and loops inside of Maya. So let's import the Maya commands because we're going to be using some objects or some Maya commands. So we'll need that. cmds as mc. And data types are things like numbers, floats, integers, strings. So in previous lessons, we've seen strings. Strings are something like this. So it is a set of characters that is being represented as a single variable. So data types are typically used as variables. Excuse me. So that is a string type. Then we have things like floating numbers, which floating numbers means that we have a decimal point, so they're a fraction of a number. Then we have whole numbers, which are integers. So we can use these in many different ways when we are working our code. Today we want to be able to take that, incorporate them inside of a loop, and we need to do a variable for that. So variables can hold strings, integers, floats, and a lot of different other types of variables, but we have to be able to declare them. So we have to create a variable name, something like number is equal to, so the equal lets us tell us that we're defining the number, and then we can put a number too. So if we wanted to test that that was a variable, we can actually do a print statement, and then we can tell it that we want to print number. So we can see that it prints the number 2 there. Now that we have printed a number like that, we can use this in different manners, but let's try doing something like 2.0 so that we can see that as we change this variable, even without us changing this, and we were to run this, we get that new variable number there in the print statement. So the command hasn't changed here, but the variable has. And because of that, it actually updates. Good morning, Nature Bound. I had good sleep tonight. Yeah, it was a little bit rough at the beginning because Penny was starting school today and was super excited. But after we got her situated in bed, I was able to sleep pretty well. Okay, so we can also do a string. So we do that, we change the variable, and now that variable will print instead of the number 2. Okay, so that's how we store variables, and now let's look at them in functioning inside of a loop. We have to be careful with loops because if we get stuck in an infinite loop, we can actually crash Maya. So let's do 2. And then we're going to do a while loop. So while 2 is less than 5. Then we can put a colon, we go down to the next line, and then what do we want to do when that is there? Actually, let's make this a little bit easier. Let's make this 1. Actually, let's make this number. So whatever this number is, we'll make this a number 1, and we'll make this variable here number. It's case sensitive, so make sure that you keep the proper casing. while number is less than 5, what are we going to do? We're going to say print number. And then after it finishes, we're going to increment the number by 1. So we're going to say number equals number plus 1. Oh, that's awesome that your girls had a blast yesterday at school, Nature Bound. Penny is definitely super excited, so I'm excited to hear from her in the evening and see what she has to say about her first day of school when she gets home. Okay, so we are incrementing the number by 1 each time, and then hopefully when we do that, it's going to start off with 1, and then it's going to keep on incrementing number until it's past 5. So let's see what happens here, and hopefully I did not get it into an infinite loop. Here, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4. So it printed each one of these lines. Something that we see here is that while number is smaller than or less than 5, so as soon as it equals 5, it doesn't go through this loop anymore. That's why we see the number 5. So if we wanted to actually see the 5, I forget sometimes it might be equals to or greater to, or less than, I mean. So we can see that I messed that up. It's actually on the other side. And that should work. So if we put the equal sign there after the less than sign, we actually get the 5 included as well. So I have an idea for an assignment. Let's look at here really quick. I wanted to be able to create a set number of primitives and space them out evenly. So let's do that. So we have this, and now we can see that we're doing this 5 times. Let's say that we wanted to create a primitive. So we can take something like mc.polysphere. Let's do cube. There we go. Polycube. And let's make it named whatever the number is. So name equals number. And then we're going to increment the number by 1. But before we do that, let's say that we have a variable. Let's create another variable for x position. And let's make that equal to 0. And we're going to increment the x position as well. So this is going to be x position and x position plus, and this time I'm going to space them out evenly by 5 units instead of 1. I do these live streams a few times a week. I have a class at a university where I'm teaching these, so I'm going along with the university class where they need information. I'm actually creating these tutorials specifically for them, but I'm also making them public so that way people have access to learning these skills as well. So here I am increasing the position by 5 after it's, so over here I want to make sure that I set the object. So I'm going to say mc.set adder. And we're going to say number plus dot tx for translate x, or let's do the whole word, translate x. And actually, let's make these single quotes to be more accurate with what Python likes us to do. We can do either, but typically you want to do it in single quotes. And then comma, we're going to say x position, and we'll close the parentheses. And let's see if this works. So we're creating a cube now in this loop. So it's going to increment the loop just like we did over here 5 times. And each time it does it, it's going to create a cube. It's going to name it whatever the number is. And then it's going to take that cube and move it over whatever the current position is. And then we're going to increment the number by 1 and the position by 5. So let's see if we got everything correct. We have an error here. So right now it is reading line 7. Unsupported types for plus. So this is integer right now, and this is a string. So we have to convert this to a string. The easy way to do that is do str and put this in parentheses. And let's run this. Let's see. Okay, there's 2 objects now that are created that are the same name. So let's take these and delete them really quick. Nomad object matches 1. Okay, so we have to give it a name a little bit better than that because it's actually creating issues because we're using a number for the name of the script. Of the objects. So let me start a new project here. It will keep my script open here. So the goal of the courses that I'm doing here is basically to give you a foundation level of knowledge in Python enough to, by the end of these tutorials, to be able to build your own tools. Starting off with basic concepts of Python and then moving on into a little bit more technical tool building. It will go all the way through the end of the year in December. So I don't have a specific time that I'm releasing them right now, but it should be usually a couple videos a week at least. Okay, so here we're going to say cube plus str number. So it converts whatever the number is and it's adding cube in the front. And then we'll do the same line here. So that way it adds that cube's name. Let's try this again. So here we can see that it's created 5 cubes now that we fixed the issues with the data types because they are different data types. So when you try to combine them, if it doesn't understand how to combine them, we will have issues, but you can easily transform them to whatever type of data that we need. We can see that it has created these cubes and it has spaced them out evenly. Am I going to be doing these in Houdini as well? It's an idea that I've been thinking of doing them in Houdini as well. I think that it would be fun to do them in Houdini. It would be The code is really similar, but basically what's going to change is the .who commands instead of the Maya commands, and they have their own kind of syntax for how you access their Houdini commands. But I can do some extra tutorials on Houdini if there's enough interest. So if there is interest, make sure that you let me know in the comments section after the live so that I can keep track of it. And also, if you're here in the chat, make sure you let me know. It seems like NodeNest, you're interested in Houdini Python tutorials, which I can do. I have programmed in Python and Houdini as well, so it is possible for me to do as long as there is enough interest. So it looks like a few people here are interested in Houdini Python so far, so that's good. Yeah, so I created the set of primitives and it's duplicated them across this way. Let me double check. Cross and then, okay, the next one is setting up doing any selected object. So getting a selected object and actually duplicating it across as well. So we can try to do that. So it looks like here we have, we want to get a selection of an object. So let me just make a test object here. So if we want to get that object with the selection, we can do a variable. So let's test this out really quick. We're going to do MC. Oops, this is got some weird spacing. I don't know what happened there. Okay, so MC ls, which creates a list. And then we have to tell it what we want to list, and that's going to be the selection, and that is equal to true. And let's hold that into a variable. So selection is equal, or cell is equal to that selection, and let's print just to make sure that we have the correct object. So here we can see that we have it inside of a list, which is a different type of data type. So if we were to use this, we're actually getting the U and test. So we have to tell it that we want the first item in the list, which I believe is 0. So let's try running this here. So now we can see that it only prints lists rather than it connected completely into a list of objects. So now we have the ability to get that selection. Now here, instead of creating a geometry, we are going to be having that selected object. So we have the object selected, and we're going to basically this. Actually, just to make it a little bit easier, let's make a cell equal to cell brackets 0. So what that is going to do is make it the variable just that first item in the list only. So here, what we can do is have cell, and we're going to add the dot translate x, and we're going to move it by the number of positions that we have. So it's going to start off at 0 and then move it over. Yeah, I think that it would be a good idea to have a set time. Right now, it's been a little bit hectic because I've been getting Penny to my daughter situated for school. But I think within the next week, I'll set a determined time and I will post it on my Twitter to make sure that everybody knows what time I'm going to be going live at. So that way everybody knows. I think my schedule is going to be a little bit more consistent now that Penny is starting school. And then before that, I'm just going to do a duplicate command, mc.duplicate. So it should duplicate the object and then move it over. And it should do that 5 times. So let's see if this works. There we go. And we have it kind of spaced, but it's only moving the original object over. So we want the duplicate to happen after we move it. So it did create all the objects. Again, let's try one more time. It's not spacing it correctly, so I want it to make sure that it spaces it correctly. It is moving it correctly. I just need to get the logic ordered so that it is happening in the right order. So we have it where it is translating at 5 units each time and then duplicates it. Okay. Thank you, Naturebound, for stopping by. We'll see you later in another stream. I don't think I'll be able to make it to Michael's today because I got to go to work right after this. But if I can, I will. Okay, so mc.setAttr, we got the selection and it's translating. Line 6 is giving me an error now. Oh, because there's no selection. So let's see. Nope. Gonna put this back at 0. So I know what's happening now. It's duplicating the last object selected. So we need to make sure that we select the object again. So let's put select, and we're going to tell it that we want it to select. But we need to do mc dot select, and then we're going to make the selection cell. Let's try that now. There we go. That gets the spacing that we want. The only issue that I see right now is that it ends off with an extra piece of geometry, so we have 5 of them. So let's make this equal to 5. So I'm going to delete all this. Oops. Delete those and then run this. Let's put this back at 0. And run this again. So we have that. And let's see, test and the object for it are exactly at the same spot. So let's see if we move this again to before we move it, if that will make any difference, which I believe it will. So the order of everything really does matter a lot. So here we put the last object. So let's see, test is there. Then object 1 and object 2 are in the same spot. Michael's link is, I don't have access to it because I don't have access to the chat, but his channel name is Michael Thayer Jr. I'll type that. He should be the first one that pops up when you search that name. He's a community show for YouTube channels. It's called The Best Hour of His Day. Okay, so we want to select it, move it, and then do that. I think we need an if statement right now, and I don't want to include an extra if statement yet because I want to do ifs on another statement or another video. I think in order to get this to space out with 5 objects together separately like this, we need an additional if statement. And I don't want to jump ahead to an extra type of code. I just want to do while loops here. So I think I'm going to end it there, and then we can actually create a more robust version of this when we have if statements in a future lesson. All right, so that is it for this video. I actually have to end this now and go to work. But I'll see you guys in the next one. The next video is going to be about creating randomly generated numbers. And then after that, we'll look at if statements as well. All right. Talk to you guys later.